Morning, everybody. In this video, we're going to go ahead and we're going to address something that kind of was overlooked. It was talked about in your book, but that is casting. Specifically, when you're trying to go ahead and turn one variable type potentially into another variable type. Now, you've seen this before in other languages. Sometimes they use methods, something like toInt in PHP, or in C# you'll go ahead and you'll put in front of the variable in parentheses the type you're trying to cast it to. And when we talk about casting, it's something like, an easy example would be, I have somebody's age, and I know I store their age as an int, but then I need to print their age to the screen, which would make it a string. Some programming languages will allow you to go ahead and just concatenate the variable that holds the int into the string, and it'll know on the fly to turn it into a string. But some languages don't. Some languages need you to explicitly turn that int into a string. So we're going to go ahead and look at right here. I'm going to start with var age int equals 66. Now, if I were to go ahead and say, I am age old, make the sentence make sense, I am age years old. Now right away it'll tell you you cannot convert value of type int to expected argument type, and if this were to show the whole thing, there you go, string. Yeah, we can't do that. You have two ways that you can go ahead and cast, now as far as strings go. Now, one way that you go ahead and you convert a variable from one type to another in Swift is, it's similar to how you do it in other languages, where you wrap using parentheses. In this case, I wrap the variable I'm converting to, or I wrap the variable that I am converting with the type that I'm converting to. Now it'll go ahead and if I run this, it'll print I am 66 years old. Okay? Now this is the way you would do it for converting, whether it was trying to convert to a string, to an int, to a float, to whatever you were trying to do. You could go ahead and use this cast method. Okay? Now, specifically with strings, there's another way when it comes to trying to print something to the screen. And that is, you go ahead and you put a backslash, parentheses, and inside those parentheses you put the variable. And you'll see that it turns it white. Okay? It's no longer orange. It recognizes that with this right here, it helps if I use the right variable name, it knows that with this right here, I'm saying, hey, I've got a special character here. I'm going to be passing you a variable. Right? And here's where the variable ends. Whenever you reach the next parentheses, that's where it ends, and you put the variable inside. And then when I go ahead and run this, it also prints I am 66 years old. It knows just fine to go ahead and take this and convert it to a string within this print statement, whatever the value of the age variable is. Now, to show you just the other side of things, I may go ahead and say, all right, I've got var, I want to create a float. Okay? I'm going to assign age float equals age. Now, this will go ahead and give you an error. I can't assign an int to a float. What I could do is cast age to float, and then I can go ahead and make the assignation. And you'll see over here it successfully ran the debug console. So as you can see, these two ways here are the way of casting any variable potentially to another variable. If this were to fail, if I were to try to cast something that can't be cast to a particular type, typically when you're doing it here in the editor, it's going to tell you, no, that's not going to work, because you have to go ahead and define what a variable type is. This is one of the benefits, again, of Swift. It is type safe. It knows what types are, what variables are what types, so it would tell you beforehand you can't do this. But for ones that you can successfully cast with, this is how you go ahead and you write that. This particular method here is specific to how do I get this variable to populate within this string without having to go ahead and write it like this, where I have to close the quotes, I have to plus, I have to go ahead and cast it, I have to plus again, I have to go ahead and open the quote again and add it all together. This is just shorter, cleaner, and you don't have to worry about casting it. It takes this as the cast and as the, hey, replace this with the variable's value.